On Saturday night, in a town outside of Dallas, outside of Mesquite, in a town called Balk Springs, a group of African-American high school kids left a party after cops came to break it up. As they harmlessly drove away, a white police officer named Roy Oliver shot a rifle into their car 3 times and killed a 15-year-old kid named Jordan Edwards. I brought a picture of Jordan and his dad, Odell, with me today. Jordan was a straight-A student. He was beloved by his family, friends, teachers, and coaches. He hadn't been drinking that night. Neither had his 2 brothers who were with him in the car. They had no weapons, no drugs, no outstanding warrants, and gave the officer no reason to fire on them. After Jordan was killed, his brothers who were in the car with him were arrested and detained for hours at the police station. And originally, Roy Oliver, the officer, and the other officers reported that the car carrying Jordan was, quote, backing out aggressively at them. And that's why they fired on it. This was the official story. It was even the official story that the police department reported to the media. But all that changed when the body cam footage of Roy and another officer were reviewed. The video showed that the boys were driving harmlessly away from the party when Roy Oliver started firing a high-powered rifle at the car for no apparent reason. The police chief and the department reversed their official statement, and Roy Oliver has now been arrested for murder. When I first read this story on Tuesday morning, I cried. And I cried for Jordan's brothers who have to spend the rest of their life every time they close their eyes reliving the moment where they saw their brother murdered in front of them. I cried for Jordan's parents, his dad Odell and his mom Charmaine, because they never get to really be whole again after losing their son. I cried because I remembered Alton Sterling, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, and so many others. I felt so helpless. And I think this story really got to me because so much of it was familiar. So much of it was familiar, and yet the end I couldn't even begin to wrap my mind around. Being a 15-year-old kid is familiar to me. Loving sports and my family is familiar. Going to a party is familiar to me. Leaving when the cops get called is familiar to me. But having all of that culminate with a police officer firing a rifle into my car as I drive away is so shockingly unfamiliar that I can't even begin to make sense of it. Jordan Edwards was better than me. He was better than me in every measurable way. He got better grades. He was better at sports. He was loved by his teachers and his coaches. He wasn't drinking at that party. And by all accounts, he was a tender-hearted and respectful young man. So why do I get to stand up here and talk to you this morning and Jordan doesn't? Why do I get to go have lunch and hang out with my family after church today, but Jordan's family never gets to see him again? I am convinced it's because I'm white and he was black. You may not think that's true, and that's okay. It is not my goal to convince you of that this morning. But you need to understand that 99% of the African American community is convinced that this kid's murder and many other murders are precipitated by prejudice and racism. You need to understand that. I'm obviously not black, and neither are many of you. We don't understand what it's like to be black either. Most of us don't understand what it's like to be worried for our lives at a traffic stop. But if you truly listen to the vast majority of our African American brothers and sisters, they will tell you that's exactly what they experience. And listen to me, we don't have to experience it or understand it to mourn with them. cry with them. I didn't know what to do after reading Jordan's story on Tuesday morning, so I posted some thoughts about it on social media, and then I decided just to text some of my closest African-American friends. It wasn't anything profound. It was a simple message, and it said, "I'm so sorry. I'm weeping with you today. I just want you to know that I love you and that I'm praying for you and I'm here if you want to talk." That text didn't fix anything. It didn't bring justice for Jordan Edwards or peace to his family, but it let another child of God, a fellow image bearer, my brothers and my sisters, know that I was weeping with them. That for just a second, I tried to put myself in their shoes and see what they see and experience what they experience. Sometimes you aren't going to be able to understand the inequality, much less fix it on your own, but that doesn't mean that you have to stay silent. It doesn't mean that you can't text or call a friend just to say, "I love you and I'm crying with you today." And when justice is served or when equality is pursued, you can text and call and say, "I'm rejoicing with you today," because we are one. Because even though we are different parts, we belong to the same body. Even though we may look different, even though we may be different colors, we bear the same image of the same God. Nothing solidifies bonds across diverse lines more than truly listening to someone about what they experience and what they believe. Paul says, if one part suffers, every part suffers with it. When was the last time you suffered with someone? When was the last time you just entered into someone's pain? We should be working to end inequality in our city, in our nation, and around the world, but that can feel so hopeless and so overwhelming. We can't always fix everything, but we can always let our brothers and sisters who are being treated unfairly, we can let them know that we see them and that we weep with them. Because even though they may be different, we are all parts of the same body. We are one in Christ. We bear the same image of the same God. That's how we embrace our differences.